So it's easy for Michael to say that he's nervous speaking after Naomi. I'm terrified of speaking after the two of them. So I will. And also because I'm incredibly hyperactive, I'm gonna stand up. So otherwise, if I sit here, my knees start shaking, and it's like not so good. Okay. So first of all, thank you. It's amazing to see so many people here. See so many people in Copenhagen. So many people here to reclaim our power. Because over a year ago, in September 2008, many international comrades gathered, thanks to a friendly invitation from our Danish friends, to start or to expose the dirty little secret that has been haunting the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change for the 15 years of its existence, which is that the COPs won't solve the climate crisis. It's a dirty little secret, but somebody's got to say it. It won't solve the climate crisis, it won't deliver what we really need, it won't deliver radical emissions reductions, it won't deliver real global justice. Why? Because the COP really isn't about solving the climate crisis. The COP is fundamentally about solving the multiple crises that global capitalism has got itself into in the last few years. Put it another way, the COP isn't about saving us, the COP is about saving global capitalism. Right now you might say, well, you know, you can't say that. The UN, and Naomi pointed this out, you know, it's the UN, it's not the WTO, it's not the IMF. It's the UN, they got the funny blue helmets, and they're the nice guys. Sort of. But, and this may sound a bit like Life of Brian, but you know, what have 15 years of COPs ever done for us? It's one of my favorite scenes from the movie. So, I'm going to get a bit German academic-y here. There's 4 kinds of effects of 15 years of COP I wanted to quickly look at. First, okay, and yes, I always do this because I'm hyperactive. I speak far too fast. So if I do this, and I know there are many friends here for whom English is not the first language. Yeah. So if I get ranty and too fast, just do this, or you know, throw soft things at me. Somebody give me a spliff as well. It also helps. Okay, so 4 effects of 15 years of COP, right? Ecological effect, 0. Since the COP came into existence, since the Kyoto Protocol came into force, emissions have been rising and their rate of increase has been rising. So if the COP was about solving the climate crisis, so far they would have really fucked up quite seriously. Okay. So 0 ecological effects. Secondly, social effects. You know those funny things they call carbon offsets? Where we in the global north pay people in the global south to clean up our shit so we can continue with our destructive business as usual? Right, what happens with those kinds of projects is that, say, in Mexico, people kick indigenous people, the big companies kick indigenous people off the land so that they can build a wind farm there. So the same people who have done the least to cause the climate crisis are once again kicked off the land so we can continue our own fucked up ways. So that's the second point. Social effects of the COP, negative. So no solving the climate crisis, no global justice. However, there's a third effect, a political effect. Yeah, ranty, I know. A political effect. Namely that when you talk to people about climate change and they say they're worried about it, they will often say, well, but you know, don't they have these they've got these climate summit things, you know, where they meet and they talk and they come up with these emissions markets and these clever ideas. So what happens is that the COP really creates a shield around the global capitalist system, the economic and the political system, because it essentially legitimizes what goes on by pretending that the problems are being solved. But since we know the problems are being solved, the COP legitimizes our fucked up business as usual. But really the most significant effect of the COP, from the perspective of global capitalism, has been to create a major new market, a major new financial playground, where those capitalists who brought us the last crisis can have another go at fucking shit up. Right, so basically the COP has led to the creation of enormous global emissions markets. Admittedly, in 2008, those were kind of small, only $100 billion large, give or take. But you know, we're a bit desensitized after all the stimulus packages, 700 billion here and there. And by 2015 or 2020, these markets are going to be about $2 to $3 trillion large. Now, I want to get into a lot of political economy, but one of the current crises of capitalism is a crisis of overaccumulation. That means there isn't enough places to profitably invest your money. That then leads to financialization, to all these kind of speculative bubbles. So the important point is that the main effect of the COP has been to create new markets, to create new opportunities for profit, to legitimize business as usual. So whatever the original plan might have been, the COP hasn't solved the climate crisis, it hasn't delivered global justice, but it has or is trying to save global capitalism from itself, and we really need to start doing something about that. Okay, so the action that we have planned for Wednesday, and I think this is once again where the German academic in me sort of creeps out, has 2 strategic goals and 4 tactical elements. So this is trying to get a bit tricky. Okay, the strategic goals are: A, set a totally different agenda. Since we know that the UN won't solve the climate crisis, we need to push the agenda of global climate politics away from their false solutions, away from their... Slow down. Yes. Okay, oh, good, yeah, okay. We have time. Well, if your pulse was 160, you'd be speaking fast. But fair point, fair point. I'm just going to respond to this by having a sip of water. Now I'm seriously nervous. My name is Tadzio. Okay, first strategic goal is we need to move the agenda of global climate politics away from their false solutions, away from these emissions markets, from these emissions rights markets, which even Deutsche Bank, you know, not in the business of ecological radicalism, says will not do anything to reduce emissions. We need to move away from the false solutions of carbon offsetting and towards an agenda of real climate justice. We know what needs to be done. We need to focus on the structural changes that we need to make happen. First, we need to start leaving fossil fuels in the ground. Secondly, because I'm just going through these kind of different agenda points, because if we just say it's all about capitalism and we need to destroy capitalism, that is true, but not strategically very useful, because we haven't really worked out exactly how to do that yet. We're still, you know, we're still working it out. So our second point on the agenda is to move away from the madness of export-driven industrial agriculture, an enormous emitter, fucks people up, kicks people off the land, and feeds us all the crap that we can buy at the supermarkets. Right, we need to move away from that. But the punchline was going to be, we need to move to a system of, you know, food sovereignty, but that's not actually the punchline, but it's a very important point. Food sovereignty is something that one of the most important global social movements, Via Campesina, has been fighting for a long time, and it's really a struggle we need to get behind. A third point on our agenda is that and this is what Naomi talked about, the global north needs to recognize and start making reparations for the enormous ecological debt that it owes the global south.